Hello, my friends, and welcome to MSP Unplugged's Emerging Vendor Series. I'm your host, Rick Smith. Thanks for joining us. In this series, we're spotlighting ConnectWise PitchIT contestants. Each episode, we highlight an emerging vendor who is changing the game and making a big impact on the MSP space. Let me introduce my co-host, someone you all know, Mr. Sean Lardo. He is Mr. Sean Lardo. I got you this time, buddy.
Wait a minute. Wait, no, I want the rest.
All right. He is the economy evangelist for ConnectWise.
Bravo. Took you 2.5 months, but we're finally here.
Yeah, I know. 30 episodes in, and I finally know what you do. Well, actually, I can finally say what you do.
Yeah. Knowing what I do is a whole different conversation, which we won't get into because you already had a hard time saying economy. So I don't want to really, I don't want to push my luck today.
So how you doing, my friend?
Doing well, man. Had a great show at ASCII last week in Columbus, which was good. Things busy as all hell. I'm getting ready. I'm about to do a road trip down to see my oldest daughter down in Richmond, Virginia, because we moved to there last year for a job. So all these things, doing well. Busy and just living the dream. How about that? And preparing for all the other stuff for you figure we're only a few months out from IT Nation Connect.
Right.
And along with we are, and I know this episode, depending on when this episode comes out, but this will date us, of course, when it came out. We're only about a month away from when we do the preliminaries for the PitchIT people and see who the final three are.
Right.
Which is exciting.
Hey, so let's do this. For those who are not familiar with PitchIT, just have a quick rundown on what PitchIT is and how that works.
Absolutely. So a couple things here. It's real simple. PitchIT is a sponsored competition from ConnectWise, 5 years in the running. It is a Shark Tank-like concept competition, right? We're looking for the best of the emerging vendors that support the MSPs, that complement the ConnectWise economy, community, ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. But that's what that's about first, okay? The competition itself is really for the vendors, is they're trying to become one of the 3 finalists, which if they are 3 finalists, they get free booth space at IT Nation Connect in November, but they also get to pitch live on stage in front of the crowd, all the 3 finalists only. They get to pitch live for the trying to win the grand prize of $70,000. Second place does get $30,000. Third place, steak knives. So, all that said, though, it's really a big deal for them because the big part of this program is this is an accelerated incubator program. So they're getting training sessions each week from practitioners in a space that can help them with sales, marketing, mergers, acquisition, integrations, branding. You take your pick. Every single week is somebody new. And they're also getting the exposure through, and I am very appreciative of all you guys, you, Paco, Marvin B, Ray Orsini, the group, helping them get exposure to speak on these interviews, but also get the exposure they need so MSPs can find them and start to look into them and hopefully become customers.
Right. And that's important, just to get the face out there and be known and
give people a chance to come talk to you, because if they don't know you exist, there's no conversation to be had.
Exactly.
We are at a point where we've had a lot of great exposure in general for the program. 4 years ago and even 3 years ago, the program, we were seeing about 5 or 6 vendors involved. Last year we had 18. This year we have 26. So it's growing, and it wasn't. I guess the good thing in all this I'm getting at is that for the MSPs, this is a great thing, because these vendors, they were sourcing us out for this because they want to improve, they want to get help, they want to be able to have MSPs see them and give them feedback. So they are actually investing in this ecosystem and in this community. So, and MSPs always get concerned, like, will they be around? Are they legitimate? Yes, they are. They came and found us. They're spending money. They're not. It's free to be in the competition for vendors, but it's a lot of hours invested for one. So you pay your employees for that, right? There's a lot of things going on. They start talking about the integrations. They have to invest in paying for integration work to be done to integrate into ConnectWise. So there's a lot, and a lot of them are sponsoring ASCII events, China Pro events, and IT Nation events. So I mean, they're around, and it's going really well. So,
well, that's good. That's good.
I'm excited.
I mean, I've been here. Well, last year we did a little bit of it, and I've been here, so I've watched the progress and met a lot of great vendors. So I know it's a good program, and you know how I feel about the community itself, the synergy that needs to be there between vendor and MSP. And we can only benefit, again, as I always say, from good vendors who understand our business and know how to communicate with us.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah. And with that in mind, I'm going to bring in this week's guest. He is Paul Scully. He is the Vice President of Sales of GrokStream. How are you, Paul?
Very good. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, thanks for being here. So for those who don't know you, can you give us a little brief history on you, yourself, and then your journey and then tell us a little bit about GrokStream?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my background, went to start very early on here. I graduated with a computer science degree and spent really my early career working with deploying fault management systems, monitoring systems, performance management systems for large CLECs and telecoms. From there, I moved on to a sales and consulting role, really always kind of keeping in touch with kind of the technical aspects of what I did early in my career. Over the last 20 years, I've worked for numerous companies in the sales and consulting kind of role, right? So all focused, though, on clients, around better, helping them better manage their IT infrastructure and their network infrastructure. So this is stuff like, deploying, helping companies deploy performance management systems, application management, ticketing and ITSM systems. The last company I worked for, we were focused on, how to best automate the diagnostic triage or remediation of IT problems. So now I'm at GrokStream, and we're focused on really bringing the latest advancements of artificial intelligence and machine learning really to the same problem area and problem set, right? So helping companies more efficiently manage their IT environment. And our objective really here for our customers is to help customers identify if there's a problem in their environment and either prevent or fix that problem, automatically. And so, the past 15 years, I've been with the same kind of core team, right? So the team has founded and sold numerous consulting companies and SaaS companies. About 7 years ago, they founded GrokStream. And before that, I was with them at the automation company. That company was sold. I stayed on with the new owners for a couple of years. The team started GrokStream after that, and then I came over about 5 years ago, and I've been kind of owning the sales function ever since.
That's so. Question. I mean, that's a good pedigree, by the way. Were your previous roles, were they also amongst MSPs, or were they enterprise? Because it sounds like it could be both.
Yeah. So the great thing about the problem we help our customers solve is that it's a problem shared almost equally with the enterprise, with telecom, and with MSPs. So really, it's been across the board. I've actually had probably more experience over the past 5 years working with MSPs, helping them deploy successfully, machine learning and artificial intelligence to solve the problems that I was just talking about. So.
Awesome. And okay, so I have a pet peeve when it comes to AI and machine learning. Okay, because we've been talking about it for like 15 years now, right? and I think there is a difference between the two, right? And but people have tried to blend them, right? So what is your definition of the two? Like, what's the differentiator between the two? Let's say that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's funny, when I first started this, we would spend a good bit of our presentations to customers just setting, level setting of what all these terms mean, right? AI, machine learning, deep learning, general intelligence, right? But you can look at AI as kind of the umbrella, right? AI is, and to me, AI allows a lot of companies to just claim they have artificial intelligence, because if you have some sort of automation in your platform, if you're doing anything that automates a very kind of discrete process, that's essentially AI. So it's the umbrella term for all of this, right? Where machine learning, you kind of get a little bit more nuanced in what that means, right? And machine learning is having the system actually learn from the data that it's processing and take actions based on that learning, and then continue to update the intelligence of the model so that it continues to get better over time. Whereas AI you can automate a discrete process, and then now you have an AI system. Whereas machine learning, it's actually learning from the data, taking feedback from that data, and then making adjustments of what it's going to do in the future, right? So that's the big difference from an AI system versus a machine learning system.
Now,
and that is the best explanation I've heard.
I agree. It is. You're doing well. And I'm going to go one step further now. You mentioned about the data it's receiving. Now, are we talking internal, external, both? So in other words, I have a machine learning type technology I'm using. Am I able to attach that kind of stuff to external pieces too? Or is it being only learn from what I'm feeding it directly?
Yeah, well, so we're going to learn from whatever is being fed into the system, right? Obviously, we need to have data coming in for us to learn. Now, the types of data that we can bring in, I mean, machine learning is machine learning, right? And we can, different applications of machine learning will take in different applications of data. But for what we do on the Grok side, it's all about the health signal type data from the IT infrastructure. So that's log data, that's application monitoring data, that's performance data, right? That's network data and fault data. It's all that type of data we want to bring in, along with the incident data that helps us understand what's been done to solve these issues historically. So it's that kind of data that we'll process.
Okay. And what's the end goal for your product with MSPs? Like, what do they achieve out of this?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for us, it's to help them. It's essentially what I said earlier. It's to find problems early, right? So essentially, our objective is to help our customers to find and fix problems before they impact the organization and the users, right? And that's our goal with our customers. And like I said, we do this by leveraging the machine learning algorithms to ingest all types of that monitoring data, so the fault data, performance data, log data. And we use that data to help our customers determine that. We want to be able to, in most cases, right, link into some sort of automation so that we're resolving this issue before it actually impacts the end users.
Okay, Paul, dumb it down for me a little bit. Okay, I'm just an MSP. So what?
Oh.
Make sure you know when he says that you're muted. By the way, you muted yourself, Rick.
Yeah,
I can dumb it down. Also knows that he's a Cowboys fan, so he's really not the smartest.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm gonna let that go right now.
Oh my God, yeah. Did you switch your audio to something else, by the way? Because it sounds like it's you're
back. I'm back.
There you're back. That's way better. Holy hell. See what good audio does?
It's so many. It's a real stuff. I got so many mics around here, but I'm just joking. I only have two. But where I was going with this, Paul, is for me as an MSP, what issue would you catch to help me improve? Like, give me an example of an issue you would help me catch to improve our systems.
Yeah. So let's say you have an application that is critical to your customers that you're monitoring and managing for that customer, right? So a lot of time those applications will a lot of MSPs, what they'll do is they'll manage just the critical down part of that application. So you get a critical event, and then by that point the user's already impacted if you're just looking at the critical events, right? And so what we help you do is to start looking at not just those critical events, but all of the other kind of signal related to that application that you're not looking at today because you don't really have the systems or the manpower to look at all that information, right? All the time. And so we let the algorithms look at all that information. And what the algorithms will do, it will start finding that early warning signal that is representative of that problem to come, right? And so instead of you having to respond and be reactive to the problem, what we're going to help you do is be much more proactive and find that problem before it impacts your user, right? And so that application example I gave you, it could be, pick your application, right? It could be any application that's critical to your customer's environment. And if it goes down, your customer is going to be negatively affected, right? It could be, they can't fulfill sales orders. They can't respond to customer requests, right? All that stuff has a revenue impact, a branding impact on that customer, right? And so those are the types of things that we're going to help you find early and resolve before they become a problem for your customer.
Okay. Kind of the MSP of the MSPs, right? It's like basically letting us know.
That's actually a great way to put it. You're an MSP of the MSPs. Question though, when you're doing this reporting, where is it being fed to?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Where do I find it? How do I work with it? Stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so we have different ways. So that's the how are we going to operationalize the output of what we do, right? And that's the question you're asking there. And it can be done in different ways. So one way we do it is if you already have a kind of a streamlined approach to how you manage your customers' environments. Maybe you work from tickets, or maybe you have some monitoring dashboard that you work for. We can serve what we do up into those existing applications that you use. Or we also have our own kind of front end within Grok, which is a very robust kind of UI that allows us to kind of organize this data in a way that and do it in real time, right? So we're not talking about doing this in a historical fashion. We're doing this in real time as the data is coming in. And so we can represent that data through our UI. We can represent it within your current process in your ticketing system. And if you have a dashboard, we can represent it there as well.
Is it reporting to the PSA? Like, is it documented in the PSA under the accounts, or, because like for ConnectWise users or Autotask users, even take your pick, whatever it is. One thing that MSPs do is they live and breathe in that PSA, right? All their tickets that come in, all their documentation. That's how they protect. That's how they protect their customers and themselves, right? And make sure they're doing their part. So, absolutely. Is it automatically going to update into an account? Because you mentioned it being at the local client's app, whatever they use, whatever's involved, whatever's being corrupted, or whatever word I'm going to use, broke, whatever, right? So does that update into that account, or how does that look for the MSP that you
Yeah, so we can update into whatever system you're using to kind of manage that customer today, right? So and we have a bi-directional communication into those systems. So we can pull all the data that we're getting off the environment. Now, we're not going to push all the data in, obviously, but we'll take that data and the output of that, which is, hey, there's a problem that's about to happen in 45 minutes, and it's a problem of this type. We can push that information, open up that case or that problem, right, and present it to a user. But what's even better than that is that before we do that, we can link it to an automation. So if there's things that we can do to further diagnose or triage that issue, and then potentially remediate it, we want to take those actions through the automation component of what we do. So that, maybe we're opening up a problem for someone to look at, but the problem's already been resolved, but we want someone to just to kind of take notice that this thing happened and then had been resolved, right? So that's all possible as well.
Perfect. Because that was my question that was my next question was, do you guys just warn us of the problem, or do you remediate or attempt to remediate the situation? So
he's on
that. But I'm sorry, Paul.
He's on point. No. He's already answered your question ahead of time. His product is so good. He knows the question you're going to ask. Yeah. He reported it to him 45 minutes in advance.
It's all about prediction, guys. Yeah. So, but yeah, absolutely. So we look to, if you go back to our kind of objective as a company, which is all about, identifying a problem early and either preventing or fixing it before it impacts the organization, right? That's what we do, right? And to do that effectively, we have to bring automation into this as a solution, right? And automation is all about, not just resolving it, but to resolve the problem, you have to do, diagnostic and triage type automations as well. So it's that whole gamut of identifying that there's a problem, classifying that problem as something specific to the customer, predicting that problem as early in its life cycle as possible, and then linking that to an automation to go solve the problem before it impacts the customer.
Now, is it agent based, or is this a machine that connects, or like one machine that connects into the network? How does that get deployed?
Yeah, so there's different ways of doing it, but we typically don't do agents. If we need to, we can. There's an architecture that we can deploy an agent. We like to use whatever infrastructure is already deployed within the environment. So if you already have monitoring that you're using, right, we want to link into that existing monitoring. If there's agents already out there sending information in, we want to be able to use that. A lot of the commands that we run can be done remotely, that we'll issue those commands remotely. But for the most part, we want to leverage as much of the existing infrastructure as we can. And where there's gaps, then we can help fill those gaps by going directly.
Okay. So I did have a question. I forget what the heck it is now. God. Oh, I know what it is. So is it all software-based checks, or is there any hardware involvement too? So let's say that a client has machines or laptops or desktops that are dated and can't hold the software that they're supposed to be using for protection purposes, let's say, whatever. Are you able to track and see that the challenge is software and hardware, or is it just only software based?
So really, it's data. Well, so I'll answer it this way: it's data based, and what I mean by it's signal and data. So we don't really care what that data is, right? Because the algorithms are, as long as we can get the data into the format that we need to see, then we can bring in security data, we can bring in config data, we can bring in event and fault data, right? We can bring in log data. All that data is available to us to bring in. Because if you think about it, the algorithms are going to be learning, unsupervised, right, based on the data that we're feeding into it, and so it doesn't really care what that data, where that data is coming from. It just cares that the data is formatted in a way that the algorithm can process it.
So ultimately, you're going to spoon feed me, the tech guy. Here's what the problem is happening right now, or is going to happen, and then my job is now to further triage to see why this took place. Like, we know it's one piece, but like I said, going back to the hardware thing, if you can't support it because you have dated stuff, we have to replace that then. But at least I'll know what the challenge is. I can see the actual issue. I can see the not the core issue, but the systemic issue right away.
Yeah. So essentially what we do is but we can take it a little bit further than that, right? Because now we've been able to identify. So I'll describe it this way. So the first thing that we're going to do is we pull all this data into Grok, right? And then we leverage machine learning algorithms, right? And so the first one that we're going to use is a clustering algorithm. So a clustering algorithm is going to correlate all that disparate data into groups that are all related to the same underlying cause. So at this point in the process, we know that, hey, this security information, this fault information, this performance, these logs data that we're getting in, there's a problem, and all that data is related to a single problem. So instead of you looking at 50 or 100 different monitoring signals, you're looking at now one grouping of events and logs that represent a problem. At this point in our process, we don't know what that problem is. We just know that there is a problem, and we know that this problem is related to all these underlying things. The next thing that we're going to do is we apply a classification algorithm to that. And that classification algorithm is going to say, hey, let me classify this problem as something specific to this particular customer, right? So now we know, hey, these groupings of 10 things, it's a problem. It's a problem with all this information, and it's a problem of this type, right? And this type of problem, it's going to result in an incident. It's going to have this type of impact on your customer, right? And once we've done that, we can then link it to an automation, to your point, which is, hey, can we go out and run a diagnostic and triage, right, based on the problem type that we've identified, to get more information to determine that, hey, it's a hardware configuration issue that's actually causing this problem, right? And then use that information to then maybe execute a fix to go fix that particular problem.
Good. Now I have one more question from that. Now that you said there's two things there. One is, you said something that's really pivotal, which is how is it going to affect your client, right? Right? So in that case, when it says how it's going to affect them, we're talking more technology-wise, more security-wise, more whatever. Are you also talking about business impact too?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And both for your customer and for the MSP itself, right? There's big impacts on both.
Perfect. Okay, two. Now that you've answered that, who else can access that? Can you triage and can you send notifications based off specific criteria? So you're the sales guy, let's say, the MSP. You want to know that this is happening because it's something part of your QBRs that you talked about, right? Is there an ability to do that as well? So I know, like, hell, we talked about this in our last QBR. They didn't want to buy this, and we need to upgrade this system, or we need to upgrade this software. They didn't want to do it. So now I can go talk to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all in how we operationalize that data for different kind of user roles within the environment, right? And so, yeah, absolutely, we can serve up this information to different types of users within the MSP, that's using it.
Perfect.
From a sales perspective, from a support perspective. So yes.
That's awesome. Okay. And then now one more question then to that for QBRs itself. If I worked on a QBR with you and we're coming back around and this challenge is happening, do you have the ability to have it automatically populate in the QBR as well if there's challenges? Like if we have it documented, but now it's like, hey, by the way, this issue did take place, because that's what QBRs are ultimately about, to show proof of why some of these things are being talked about.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's, we can track the issues that are happening. So one thing that we do, and we do very well, is that once we're done with the classification, you can look at the result of our classification exercise within Grok. The result of that is essentially the different types of problems that are reoccurring in the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we label those as problems, and then we can then tell you the severity of those problems and how they're progressing over time. So you can go back and look and say, hey, I've had this particular problem in this environment for this particular customer. It's happened, 50 times over the last month, and it's resulted in 45 incidents of this type over the last month, right? Or problems within the customer, right? And then we can look at how those have been reacted, how they've been solved, and then all that information can be presented in a variety of different systems. One being we can push it into, if you have a system or an area where you're managing your QBRs, where we can push that information into and make it available there, we can do that.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Because so is that now I know there's ongoing reporting. So if there's an issue, you guys spot it, track it. If there's a remediation for it, you either do it or suggest it to us, right? So that comes on I guess a daily or as needed basis. Now, do you guys present like a monthly report or something like that? Say, hey, these are all of the issues you dealt with we dealt with for the month, or you follow where I'm going with this?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, and that's kind of what I was mentioning. So the value of the way that we group and cluster the problems together, right, with machine learning, and then classify those into specific problem types, not just for the MSP as a whole, but for your individual customers within that the MSP is managing, right? So we can get that granular to where we can say, hey, this particular customer has had these 30 issue types in their environment, and the top 3 make up 70 or 80% of all the work that you're doing to support that customer, right? And that kind of report becomes your improvement funnel, right? So if you can look at that report and say, oh, geez, these 2 problem types, have resulted in the most, problems for my particular customer, and has required me to respond the most to that particular customer. If I just put an automation in place for those 2 particular issues, or if I just tell the customer that, hey, you have this particular service that's stopping every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're having to go out there and troubleshoot and restart that service for you, right? Those types of things we can identify and serve up to you so that you can have that report to go take those actions and fix those problems, for your customer, and then it continues to be kind of an ongoing improvement funnel for you.
Okay. Well,
I love
that's
that.
always good. Yeah.
Rick's like, that's a lot. I don't know. I can take part of some of it, but not all of it. But no, I think the best part about it is the simplification. If you actually, that takes me to a question. How easy is it to set up this stuff and to put it and to route it in the right places? Like, how does that look like? Because again, there's a lot your stuff does, which would lead somebody to believe there's a shit ton of front-loaded work to do.
Yeah. Well, the great thing is that with machine learning, it becomes a lot easier to implement. So if you go back, a number of years, the way that people have been trying to solve the problem that we're solving today is that they would write a bunch of static rules, or they would try to deploy very accurate CMDBs or topology discovery and application discovery engines to kind of get to a point where they can identify a root cause and what to do about it. And the problem with all those systems, especially the rules-based approach, it's just very heavy to get those things set up, installed and working, and then to maintain them going forward, there's a tremendous amount of work. So the benefit of using machine learning and learning from the data itself that's already coming off the environment is that the ramp up time is significantly less. And if you let the machine learning models learn over time, then it will continue to get better as you keep it deployed. So for us, deployments are very quick. We can deploy and be up and running, and the system's going to be learning within a few days. We'll start getting good results within a week or 2. We're going to have very good results coming out of it.
I love that.
Good,
okay,
yeah.
I think that's important. And what's the amount of time you expect your MSPs to invest in the initial setup with you guys, onboarding? Like, what's that look like responsibility wise?
Yeah, it's going to depend obviously on the size of the MSP, but typically for a standard environment, it's like I said, the setup is very easy. It's kind of point and click the setup for the integrations into the different systems, and the learning is going to take, like I said, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, right? We're going to be really good on our ability to correlate and start offering some prediction and classification into what the problems are.
Got it. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
I want to
Rick.
shift a little bit from what you guys are doing to your experience with PitchIT. And I do understand that you're not, as your role, you guys, and we talked off air, you guys are splitting up responsibilities when it comes to this. But what has been the experience of the company with PitchIT, and what have you guys learned? I guess is the best way to say it.
Well, I say, have you noticed the difference with the people that are involved? Because I believe one of your founder is one of the people that's actively involved in this, right? So has it affected him in a positive way to affect you in a positive way? I think is the best way to ask that.
Yeah. So I would say absolutely, right? And so, for us, when we first started, our focus has been on very large companies, right? Very, very large enterprises, very, very large service providers. And we've done that really because, to deploy machine learning, at scale, it takes a lot of resources to do that, right? But so very early on, we solved this whole data science problem, right? To be able to bring real value to these types of organizations. But over the past couple of years, we focused a lot of our R&D on improving the scale and processing of these complex machine learning models. So now we can start offering this into smaller companies. You don't have to be a multi-billion-dollar company to take advantage of machine learning. Now we can start offering this to smaller companies that that have a lower price point and have a more immediate need to kind of solve these issues, right? And so for us, PitchIT has been a really good process for us to start getting introduced into this kind of market segment, to start working with like-minded individuals in this area. These weekly meetings, my team comes back and tells me that they get really good ideas on how to approach the market, how to the problems that people are seeing, how they've overcome those problems. That's been a real big plus for us, in working with this whole PitchIT process over the past couple of months.
Awesome. And I'm glad that it's you're the first person to be on any of these that isn't the active participant in the weekly stuff, right? So It's good because I don't think people realize the domino effect that takes place in a business. And MSPs can definitely relate to this in general because most MSPs are small business entrepreneurs. So a lot of times they'll make decisions unilaterally, throw it against the wall, see what sticks kind of thing, even though you're working on something else, right? And at least if you're going to do that, make sure it's relatively vetted out and good and there's some teeth to it, right? So I'm glad, I would love to have your perspective on all of that as we progress. You should probably start documenting this stuff. Week one, what I noticed from the founder was this, but I noticed they did was that, so, and you won't be the one doing the main pitch either. You're not the one that's going to be doing the pitches.
No. We got our team is doing it along with one of the founders here. We'll be kind of managing that process for us.
See, but I guess the thing is, again, I think what you're alluding to, Sean, is just that impact that it has. Whoever is doing it, whoever's going to the trainings, that all reverberates back down to the company and changes start being made. And again, it changes it helps to improve, I guess, let me say it that way, the focus, the mission basically of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, it's giving the team a lot of a different perspective on how to work in this market, how to work to overcome problems that we're seeing. And it's just a different perspective, different ideas, and I'm starting to hear a lot of those bubble up as the team works through this process.
That's good. I hope they're all positive.
To me, it's been very positive coming back. So that's a good thing.
I think the thing is for all of you, and from our perspective, is we have 16 weeks to give you a ton of knowledge, right? And some stuff is applicable to you guys, and some is well, we've already done that part. That's not really. You'll pick up some oh, I forgot, aha moments in that case. But some are oh, I never even thought about any of this stuff. Let me work on that, right? And so with that, I think for us, I know that our big part was getting you guys all of this broad swath of information for you guys to absorb what made sense, but give you just enough not to destroy yourself also, because the one thing we don't want to do is overwhelm you all.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of times we get so busy in the sales role that you tend to forget some of the things that you should be doing that you get away from, right? Over time, and when you go through a process like this, you kind of gut check yourself and say, oh, you know what, we kind of got away from doing those kind of things, and we really should be doing that, and kind of seeing it, the success of that from others, and then it helps us kind of reorient what we're doing and get back to some of the basics.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. I find that to be a very good thing for, well, I mean, my whole progress in my career has always been from, I forget. You get complacent, right? It's the same. And by the way, every MSP is guilty of this too. And I would tell them all the same thing. You get so busy working in the business, you don't work on the business. We've been hearing that
on the business, exactly.
Right.
And that's exactly what and every single component in the business has their own set of their own business. The tech people, the sales people, it's their own business, right? And they all get caught up in that. So it's nice to have like a refresher course, or even like that sales coaches, tech coaches, take your pick, mentors, any of the above things. So I think we've kind of started establishing that here, which is really good too. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and that's the way we look at this whole PitchIT process. It's kind of that mentor that helps the team. That's
absolutely. Are you guys going to be attending IT Nation Connect with us?
I don't know, but it's something that I want to do, and I think Josh, obviously on our side, the founder is kind of leading that effort, and so
sure,
I better answer that question.
I don't know where we stand. I mean, if you're one of the 3 finalists, you're absolutely gonna have to be there, so it doesn't matter. But
well, then I should answer that question differently. I should have said absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll give you a rewind on it.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. Yeah. No. Absolutely is a good answer. I'll let them know that you said absolutely. You'll be there regardless.
Well, I'll be there. So hopefully we'll see you there. Say absolutely. We'll see you there. But as we wind down here, Paul, is there anything you think we didn't discuss, or you wanted the audience to know about GrokStream that you think we didn't touch on?
I mean, I think we hit on a lot of stuff today. I mean, for us, it's the value of Grok is really twofold. It's going to help the MSP, right, become more efficient, better service their customers, right, have less issues and tickets, right. But it's also going to benefit the end customer, right, because they're going to have less downtime, right. They're going to have a better service from the MSP, and that's what we're focused on as a company. So if I can leave you with anything, it's that, right. It's the benefit is going to be twofold, both for the MSP but also for your customers as well.
Okay. Sean, any last thoughts?
Really, I mean, it's pretty simple. This has been a good conversation. Every one of the MSPs that actually watches, we'll start with the MSPs. Every one of these vendors we brought in, including you guys now, you're all providing technology or a platform or an app or whatever it may be, or a service that's supposed to simplify your day-to-day for you guys have business continuity, better output, more growth. Facts, right? I think that if you're an MSP and you're trying to figure this out, don't wait till you get to a conference. And I hate that when MSPs wait till they go to a conference and it's like they're going shopping, and then they buy 10 different vendors because they got sucked into it. Because conferences are exciting. You're having drinks, everything is great. It makes sense to do it, but it doesn't really always make sense because you're not necessarily ready. So I think every MSP should be watching this and then check in with you guys and vetting you out to see if you're a good fit for their company, right? Long before, and take their time with that. That's one. On the other side, vendors, you guys should be paying attention to this, because how we're having these conversations is exactly what MSPs. Rick is an MSP and he's asking the questions off what he hears. I'm asking his business pieces. That's what I'm curious about, and how we approach. But really, you guys should be paying attention to this and learn how to approach your own conversations, in this manner. So, and you should take advantage of this community, just like GrokStream is. So, and otherwise, I'm done.
I just want to add on to what you said, Sean. One of the things, going, like you said, going to a conference and you go shopping, it's important. You check in, like you said, to not only know, you need to know where what you want, right? You need to know what you.
Oh, you muted yourself. Don't worry, I got it. What you need, what you want, what problem you're trying to solve, and then start to vet out accordingly to the vendors you want to look for based off what they do, and then you pick the one you like the most.
With my bad audio now, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, I'll be here all day. Thank you. Good. You ready?
So
you can finish off.
Something's wrong with my audio, but so I'll go.
Luckily, this is recorded and it could be edited, so that's amazing. Right. But no, you're spot on where you're going with it. It has to be that way. And I would suggest how do they find you, Paul? Other than the fact that you can find GrokStream on our marketplace, of course. But how do they go about finding you?
Yeah, that's probably the best place to find us, obviously, for this environment here. But sales@grokstream.com, or you can go to our website at GrokStream.com as well. Both provide areas that you can get a hold of us. So that's probably the best way to get a hold of us.
Awesome. Rick?
Okay. I think we're good now. Thanks for Sean. Appreciate it. Everybody, I want to thank you for attending today, listening to us. Paco and I release episodes when we do our tech talk every Tuesday. This special series of the Emerging Vendors is released every Wednesday and Thursday. So we invite you to join us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Do us a favor. This is important. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button to be notified whenever a new episode is available. If you'd rather take us on the go, we're on your favorite podcatcher apps. Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, to name a few. Excuse me. For Sean, Paul, and I want to say thank you, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
Thank you.